probability of getting lung cancer is fivefold, then the person who smokes and is exposed to asbestos, the probability increases to 55-fold. Okay. Same thing with ionizing radiations. In ionizing radiations, for example, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, right? Because of the uranium decay, till date, the babies or the offsprings that are born there, they're born with some kind or the other, birth defect. Okay. And many people who are living in that area, or generations of those people or those families have lung cancer. Same thing happened at Chernobyl. If I don't know if you are familiar with what happened at Chernobyl. I'm sure everyone would be familiar of what happened at Hiroshima, Nagasaki. But Chernobyl is a place in Ukraine. Their nuclear reactor site in 1986, they had a blast. Okay, and till recently, people who are born in that Chernobyl area, or people who are living, or their generations, right? All of them, because of the uranium that is used in the nuclear reactor, uranium dioxide, because of which most of them are having birth defects or lung cancer. Now, I was reading an article in Science, a magazine that most of the scientists we read to update ourselves with the with what is happening in the country or around the world. There was an article that now they have found out that in 2021 that the people are the incidences of getting incidences of abnormalities associated with uranium in Chernobyl are going down now. Okay, and so yeah, radioactive decay or ionizing radiations are they can cause lung cancer. So moving on to the next question in the quiz. Amplification of which of the following genes is associated with the occurrence of small cell lung carcinoma? The occurrence of small cell lung carcinoma is associated with MYC family genes. Okay. Squamous cell is associated with TP53, RB, and CDKN2. Okay. Now, which of the following statements is true about squamous cell carcinoma? Loss of 15p site, that's wrong. It's not 15p sites, and we will discuss what are the sites. It's the site of CDKN2 and the site 3p, and I think it is 13p for P53. We will go over it. And then the next statement is squamous cell carcinoma show the highest frequency of TP53 mutations of all histologic types of lung cancer. That is true. Squamous cell carcinoma is weakly associated with exposure to tobacco. No, it is highly associated, strongly associated with exposure to tobacco. And, we have seen dose response. The higher the dose of tobacco, the higher the incidence of squamous cell carcinoma. Okay? Is that clear? The quiz with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So now let's move on to the handout. Okay. um, Out here in the introduction, you don't have to remember 95% of. See, the reason to give you stats here is because in scientific community we understand everything. We basically understand every data or result or occurrence by stats, right? If we are not given stats, then we don't understand. And the people who write epidemiology or etiology of a disease, they are public health experts who have done, who are also experts in biostats. So that's why this stats is given here. It doesn't mean that you have to know these numbers. The numbers that you have to know, I'll let you know. Okay, so majority of the lung tumors, they turn into carcinomas, and uh, carcinoma of the lung is most important cause of cancer related deaths in industrialized countries. Why? Because of the industrial pollution, right? Industrial pollution would be exposure to asbestos, exposure to arsenic, and all those sorts of things, or exposure to radon, right? So that will increase the. That's why the incidences of lung cancer are higher in industrialized countries. It has long held the position among. Okay, so now it's more. For a long time, it was more. It was a prevalent. It was the major cancer that was prevalent in, specifically in males. But now the lung cancer incidences in males are going down, and the deaths associated with lung cancer in females is increasing, and that is that is because of increasing incidences of smoking in females. So the deaths, increasing incidence of death associated with lung cancer in females is associated with increasing incidence of smoking in females. Okay. The prognosis is very bad. 5-year survival rate for all stages of cancer, lung cancer, combined is about 16%. Okay. Etiology and pathogenesis. Let's talk about tobacco smoke. That is the major cause of lung cancer. In active smokers have about 80% chances of getting contracted by this disease because their epithelia, alveolar epithelia, gets transformed. Okay. Now you may also and active smoking, meaning so basically it is directly proportional to the number of packs of cigarette smoked per day or per year, right? So there is an increased risk, or the risk increases by 60 times or greater in habitual heavy smokers. Habitual heavy smokers are defined as someone who smokes 2 packs a day, and who has smoked 2 packs a day for 20 years. 2 packs a day meaning, I think 1 pack has 20 cigarettes in it. So about 40 cigarettes. Please don't quote me on that. I don't smoke, so I don't know. As far as I remember, I think 1 pack has 20 cigarettes or something like that. Okay, now for reasons not entirely clear, women are more susceptible to carcinogens in tobacco than men. Okay, now you can also ask. Yes, so thank you for confirming that it's 20 per pack. Okay, so now you can also say that how about if a person used to smoke, and then now stopped smoking? What are the chances of that person contracting with lung cancer? Well, it depends. so although the chances are reduced, as compared to the active smokers, but their epithelia, the alveolar epithelia has already transformed. If the epithelia is already transformed, then it's an irreversible change. Okay, so if it's an irreversible change, depending on the degree of transformance or transformation, the lung cancer may still occur in those patients. Industrial hazards, we already discussed part of it, actually everything. Air pollution. Now, it is uncertain whether air pollution by itself increases the incidence of lung cancer, but if it is paired with cigarette smoke, okay, then yes, the air pollution causes lung cancer. So, for example, if there is a person who's smoking here in United States, and there is a person who's smoking in Delhi, India, the person who is in Delhi, India, because Delhi is rated as one of the most polluted cities in the world. So the person who's smoking in Delhi, India, versus a person who's smoking in LA area would have higher chance of getting lung cancer. Okay. Now, so I already mentioned that radon is also a radioactive gas that is linked with increased risk of lung cancer. Radon can be emitted from anywhere. If, let's say, if there is a person who's working in uranium mines, they are actually at a risk of they are at a risk of at a higher risk of getting lung cancer. Then comes molecular genetics, and this is my favorite part, right? I love discussing genetics. I love discussing mutations and all, because I feel that so earlier what used to happen, right? One pill fits all. This was the theory, right? If someone has a headache, give that person a Crocin, not Crocin, that's an Indian brand, but give that person ibuprofen or Tylenol, the person will be fine. But now what's happening with our increasing understanding of pharmacogenetics, we are moving in a direction of tailored medicine. Tailored medicine meaning that probably my genetic makeup is different from someone else's genetic makeup. So for my headache, probably the Tylenol would not work. And for the headache of the other person, the Tylenol may work. Okay, so all that, and as I have already told you that I had a grant from a small pharmaceutical biotechnology company, wherein we did this study with a pain clinic in New York, and we found out that pharmacologic testing actually really plays a very big role, or the pharmacogenetic modifications actually really play a role. So depending on the pharmacogenetics of these patients, we prescribe them meds, reduce their in pain clinic. Most of the patients, they're suffering from chronic pain, so they get opioids as well. So we gave them some, depending on the pharmacogenetics of a patient, we gave some of them a mixture of non-opioid, opioid painkillers and stuff like that, and it worked out well for them. So that's why, genetics is my favorite part. Uh, so and what happens, people who are exposed to cigarette smoke, cigarette smoke usually causes something called as field effect, meaning the entire area that is getting exposed to the cigarette smoke, the cells in that area are at a potential to be transformed. Okay. And yeah, I forgot to mention that, even the passive smokers, the second-hand smoke, right? People who are exposed to passive smoking, they are at a higher risk as compared to non-smokers to develop, lung cancer. I don't know about the cost, but I think now the cost has gone down for your genomic sequencing, because now more and more companies, they are coming up with kits to sequence your genome. So I think the cost is going down, and I remember that in 2017 or 18, they've presented this in the Senate as well, so that the insurance companies should cover the pharmacogenomic testing, for certain patients who are suffering with certain disease states. For example, cancer, you have to do pharmacogenomic testing in cancer patients. Pain patients, you have to do pharmacogenomics in the pain patients as well. Okay. So different types of cancers here we have discussed. For example, squamous cell carcinoma, it is highly associated with exposure to tobacco smoke. It involves 3P and 9P site. In squamous cell, what is happening? Loss of function is happening. Always remember that. Okay. So loss of function of 3P and 9P site. So the function of 3P and 9P site is not lost. The site is lost. So 3P site is lost, 9P site is lost. These are the two foci for CDK and 2A. It's a cell cycle checkpoint gene, right? And because the 9P or 3P sites are lost, that's why the CDK and 2A genes function will be lost. Okay. 17P site is also lost. 17P site is the site for P53 gene, TP53 gene. Okay. So this happens in mostly most of the smokers. Now, squamous cell carcinoma, they show the highest frequency of TP53 mutations, meaning, so TP53 is tumor P53. So meaning the protein expression of P53, if it's increasing, that is a marker for TP53 mutations. Okay. Loss of expression or function of RB tumor suppressor is also seen in squamous cell carcinoma. As we have already discussed, that CDK and 2A is inactivated because of loss of 3P, 9P site, right? Because of which its protein P16 is also lost. P16 is also a cell cycle checkpoint protein. If you go to our ONC1 notes, it's there. It's there where we discuss the apoptotic pathway. It's right there. Okay. Then comes some of many squamous cell carcinomas, they have amplifications of FGFR1. So majorly what's happening? Loss of function is happening, but some of them may have amplification of FGFR1. Okay. FGFR1 is fibroblast growth factor receptor 1. Okay. Now, then comes small cell carcinoma. Small cell carcinoma is very similar to squamous cell carcinoma. Their histologic features are very similar to squamous cell carcinoma. So frequent loss of function aberrations in TP53 happens in small cell carcinoma. RB is lost, and then there is one amplification is happening. Amplification of genes of MYC family. So what is the difference between squamous cell and small cell carcinoma? Squamous cell amplification of FGFR1 may happen. Many of the histology show FGFR1 amplifications. In small cell carcinoma, what's happening? Amplification of MYC family genes is happening. Okay? Then comes adenocarcinoma. Adenocarcinoma, gain of function is happening. Okay? So what is happening in adenocarcinoma? Gain of function. Now, gain of function, if we talk about gain of function, that means gain of function is happening into some oncogenes or proto-oncogenes, right? Loss of function can happen in tumor suppressors, correct? If tumor suppressor, we discussed this in ONC1 as well, right? So in adenocarcinoma, gain of function is happening. Gain of function meaning EGFR signaling, okay, RAS, ALK, ALK, ROS, MET, RET, okay, EML4, ALK, and CMET tyrosine kinase gene amplifications. These may happen. Now, EML4 ALK, this is EML4, it is a microtubule associated protein. EML4, okay, is a microtubule associated protein, and it is fused with a tyrosine kinase receptor. ALK is anaplastic lymphoma kinase receptor. Okay, so when this happens, when this fusion happens, then what happens? When this fusion happens, then it supports the it supports the growth and proliferation of cells. Okay, is that clear to everyone?
Yes.
Good. All right. So now let's talk about the drugs, right? EGFR, gefitinib is used as EGFR inhibitor. Okay. We can also there is another drug that is called as afatinib. Okay. Then there are some third generation protein tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So third generation protein tyrosine kinase inhibitors example is osimertinib. Okay. So EGFR mutations, the drugs that target EGFR mutations in lung cancer are gefitinib, osimertinib. Okay. Now the drugs that target ALK mutations, alectinib is the drug. Okay. Crizotinib. Okay, now then, there are drugs that target ALK and ROS1 protein. They will inhibit ALK and ROS, and that drug is called as lorlatinib. Okay. Now RAF comes, so RAS, RAF. So RAS and the downstream molecule is RAF. So in lung cancer, we use RAF kinase inhibitors. And RAF kinase inhibitor, the example is dabrafenib. Okay, then we have MET inhibitors as well. And the MET inhibitor is tepotinib. I have worked with this drug in my PhD, tepotinib. Actually, most of the small molecule tyrosine kinase inhibitors I have worked with in my PhD. Gefitinib, imatinib, decomitinib. I've worked with these. Okay, so you will remember these drugs: gefitinib, osimertinib for EGFR, crizotinib, alectinib for ALK. Okay, and so just remember these drugs. Okay, now. Okay, yeah. So lung cancers may also happen in never smokers. Cigarette smoke is the prevalent cause of lung cancer, but there are certain patients who do not. Can we go over the group exercise? Group exercise for which part are we talking about? ONC 1 and 2? John?
I was just thinking, like, on 1 through 4, just because those are going to be in the exam.
Yeah,
I think those would be helpful.
I wanted to discuss group exercise with you guys, but the thing is that when I checked on Moodle, not all the groups have submitted. So there are some of the exercises that are submitted by 4 groups. One exercise is submitted by only 3 groups. So and yeah,
Dr. Kumar, tonight is the deadline for the submission, and I was thinking that if it's possible, would you please post the correct answers tomorrow morning? Like
tomorrow morning, I can post the correct answers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And you know what? If the exam is moved, then then we will move the review as well. So I can discuss the group exercises in the review in that case. Okay? Excuse me. Now you have to remember that in never smokers, almost none of the histologies show KRAS mutations. So KRAS mutations are very, 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 very rare in never smokers. Okay? They can show EGFR mutations, but KRAS mutations are very, very rare. And they also show TP53 mutations in never smokers. Okay? Now, types of lung cancer, here you should know the type of cell from where they arise, right? Because adenocarcinoma arises from type 2 cells. Okay, squamous cell arises from basal progenitor cells lining the bronchial epithelium. So Dr. Nolly would have covered lungs in your with you guys, right?
Physiology and anatomy of the lung.
Yeah, he would have covered it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then you would know what are type 2 cells, what are basal progenitor cells, right? Okay, good. So now small cell lung carcinoma, it arises from neuroendocrine cells. Okay. Large cell carcinoma, it's a collective term applied to the remaining rarer subtypes of lung cancer. Now, mostly what happens if you want to, identify any type of cancer, you have to rely on histology and genetics, right? So for metastatic non-small cell lung carcinoma, there are 4 ways. It can go squamous cell. We can look at the squamous cell histology. We can also look at the non-squamous cell histology with EGFR mutations, or non-squamous cell histology with ALK EML4 rearrangement. Non-squamous cell histology with EGFR and ALK. So it's nothing but, as long as you remember, these mutations happening in squamous cell carcinoma, you should be fine. Okay. And here I have, so this section talks about the, appearance, screening of lung cancer. So, for example, squamous cell and small cell carcinomas, they have strong association with smoking. They have a strong dose-response relationship to tobacco exposure, as I said earlier. Smaller tumors, they are found with a CT scan. They are more indolent, and their doubling time is 3 to 4 times longer with CT discovered tumors. So, do you know what is population doubling time when it comes to cells?
Yes.
What is it?
Basically, how much time it takes for it to double in growth.
For a population of cell to double in growth. Very good. So that is population doubling time. Okay. So that is what is discussed here. See, most important in any of the cancer slides or handouts that I have given you, if you focus on genetic mutations, you should be able to, because see, as a pharmacist, right? Now, when you reach the third year, and when we discuss cancer pharmacology with you, you will realize that most of the drugs, actually I should say 70% of the drugs that we will discuss, they are targeted towards a genetic mutation. Okay? All right. So most of the drugs. So that's why, genetics is my favorite. So I'm not saying that cancer patients are not treated with conventional chemotherapeutics. They are. We use cisplatin. We use cisplatin to treat cancer patients as well. We use topo-2 inhibitors to treat cancer patients. So we do that. But most of the drugs, as our knowledge about pharmacogenomics is increasing, as with the advent of new, better screening processes, we are able to find out the either loss of function mutations or gain of function mutation in a particular type of cancer. Then that is why we are able to target those particular mutations with the drugs. So we are giving our patients more targeted therapy, because of which the side effects are going down. Okay? Yeah, here you should remember that in small cell lung carcinoma, these are very aggressive, rapidly growing tumors. These tumors, they secrete gastrin-releasing peptide that act as an autocrine growth factor. Okay, so remember that. That is important. Okay, that is all from me. Do you have any questions related to this handout?
Sorry, could you repeat what you just said? That was important. Was it the gastrin? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. This one. Okay, for small cell lung carcinoma, gastrin-releasing peptides are also secreted, and they act as autocrine growth factors, basically, for these tumors. Okay?
Would that be a marker then?
That could be a marker, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? No questions? Very good. So in that case, I'll call it a day. We'll end this session here. Please, as soon as you hear from Dr. Tafreshi, communicate that response with me so that we can decide the next course of action. Okay?